And we're live. Welcome back to Roaring Pixels for another live stream. Sorry if some of you turned in this morning. I archived that stream because I've had to make a few changes before coming into this one. So what you're looking at here is I brought the lion muscles and bones. I combined them into one subtool and brought it over here. But before I did that, I made a few changes. Now you see the head was a bit bigger in the last stream. So I scaled the skeleton and the muscles down on this. So you'll see the changes in the silhouette. This is so it better matches to my original reference. I just felt like it's just gone a bit too big. The other changes that I made were the elbows were too far tucked in, and we lost a bit of the tricep muscles sometime during the last stream. So I've decided to rotate the bones and the muscles and even move them slightly wider. And I did also widen these digits so it feels like it's really putting the weight on it. And also, when sculpting the skin, we'll lose the gaps if they're too close, and this will help us hopefully have those gaps. Same for the back leg. I brought the knee out slightly further out because I've seen some references, and it looks like the lion, in its most relaxed standing pose, would have the knees slightly out. I didn't want it to be too far out because when it comes to rigging, the straighter the better. But this is good because you can see the angle of the flag. This is more natural for a line from the references I've seen. So accordingly, I have had to move some of these muscles as well. Also added some basic tubes for the tail muscles. And like I mentioned in the previous stream, I just added some filler geometry there. That's not really a muscle, but it'll help us when we do the modeling. Same over here. So that's, I think, all the changes. Other than that, I just accentuated this part a bit so the scapula is visible, and also the ribs in these two muscles, the abdomen and the lats, and in the end also close the gap because that was just how I want it for modeling anyway. So for CFX, maybe I'll like to have that gap, but we'll see. So the reason for doing this, in case you're wondering how come I have all these colors and not the lines, in my previous streams when I polyframed, I had the line enabled. So you can basically click that bit here to disable the line so you can see just the colors. And I think one final change that I did here is I brought back a bit of the that little spine on the cranium onto the muscles because we will need to see that when we project this onto our skin. Um, so one thing I like to do before proceeding is maybe we don't really need these teeth, so I'm going to get rid of them into a separate subtool like so, and get all those teeth from the inside. I think we got them all. And split hidden, so that's in its own subtool there, as you can see. And we have this gap here that's going to be a problem, so we shall close that up with sphere, something like that. And it might help to also close this gap here by maybe just pull these so the gap is closed that way. Okay, it might also be worth bringing the skeleton and the muscles into their own tools. So I'm gonna load my skeleton and I can't remember which one it was. Let's see. So I think it's these two. So skeleton, muscles. Let's open them. Ah, not that. Not that. Sorry. Can we undo it? I don't think we can. But that's okay. It's in a separate thing. We'll ignore that. So load tool. In fact, I'll just bring back the lion muscles, bones, like that. And so this is the original one, and this is the not that. Now we have to find it. This is the one that we manipulated. So I will append the one we just downloaded, which is the lion muscles, lion bones, muscle bones. Okay, so that will stay in a layer of its own. In fact, we may just click shift and this so it goes all the way up, but we'll always hide it on. Actually, I think it's best if we keep this at the bottom always. So that can go there and we'll hide it. And we're back to our manipulated one. Right, so now what we want to do with this is actually I don't know why I did it. I really didn't have to do that. But anyway, forget it. So the reason for doing all that is because come here we have this unified skin geometry, right? So what that does, I mean the resolution, let's go a little bit higher, double it up, 256. And when you click make unified skin, you will find here that it did something. Where is it? Skin line muscles. And there it is. So basically just created, ran that unified skin algorithm on this, and then this is what we get. So I knew I was going to have problems with this where it's going to be too low res and we'll lose the fingers, but we can sculpt them separately. But what I need to decide is whether I could go even higher with the resolution. Will it help? Or maybe lower, because I think with the higher resolution we get a lot of these banding, circular banding, and one way to do that is to like get a better result is once I find the right subtool. Where is it? Is it this one? No, this one. Right, so just turning that one on, the polyframe. So in the unified thing, we got these subdivision sphere density. So we can try increasing the density of the sphere, but that means I think it gets even like, say, we'll go something like 2 and the resolution instead of, let's say 192. So it's neither 128 nor 256, something in between. And click unified and we'll see what it does now. Is this the one? So we got a lower res one. So this is even lower. So low resolution, whereas This one a little bit higher and gets more detail. So, so between these two, I think we can just smooth out this high res one and work from there. Or do I like the low res? That's a decision we have to make. Really not that a biggie. This is just a starting point. But the great thing about it is we get a lot of those anatomy details for free by doing this way. And then when we're sculpting, we're not guessing too much. We're just, you know, putting some strokes on freely, and that's kind of what I wanted. So let's say we use this. I'm going to dynamesh this as well, maybe 256, because that will again give slightly different topology. Look, as you can see there, and maybe also click polish and then do that. Uh, I don't know. Is polish better or worse? Yeah, we can do polish and then maybe just run a little smooth algorithm all over it. Just smooth it. But the problem here is I have lost that low resolution thing that I wanted. So maybe that's not a good idea. So let's not dynamesh it, but we can just start sculpting, starting with the head, and then refine all of these rough details as we go down the chain. So one thing I need to look at here is I've lost, these parts. So maybe we should give one more attempt at creating the mesh by going even higher with this unified skin. So maybe increase the smooth to 25, but resolution to say 300. And the subdivisions, let's put that back to 0. Make unified skin. Now what does that give us? So it will be this one. Right, we got some holes, but we got that separation there that we need, and the feet are already quite better there. We could probably just use that as is. And yeah, apart from some holes there which we didn't close, yeah, this is pretty good. And we can always close that later with Dynamesh. So I think this is a resolution that we need to get started. Brilliant. So where we have holes, I'm going to use Dynamesh to close them. Just inflate, and so yeah, just takes a little bit of experimentation to see what's working, but I mean, I have to say, if you thought I was going to sculpt all of the skin from scratch, you got another thing coming. I mean, we worked so hard to do all the anatomy just so we could do this. Oh, there's one thing uh, we didn't have symmetry on, so let me just go back here, make sure symmetry is on. It's just quicker, I feel, like doing this. We could use the resymmetry tool if we lose symmetry, but we haven't lost much, so I'd rather just redo it, but go a little faster. and this is all fine. There's a hole there. There's a hole. Okay, and well, let's dynamesh this. If there are any more we find along the way, we shall fix it. But for now, just geometry. Let's go with the 128. Yeah, that worked. And smooth it out now. Amazing. That is the start. And to this, we shall amend this to the original one that we were working with, which is it this one? It is this one. So append the skin, whatever it's called, which is skin line bones 2. And there we have a working skin model. So we shall have this right at the top by clicking shift and that symbol there, and there it is, we are right on top. And so if I go and click transparent, I should see. Why am I not seeing it? Oh, because this is hidden. I should see even clearer than that, but it's very light, isn't it? So if we move this up, will it make a difference? We already have this. I don't even know if we need this, but anyway. So I'm going to hit Control W a couple times so it's a different color, something like this, so we can see better. So now we have two things happening. We have the underlying musculature that we can see through, as you can see here. So if we ever get lost and lose some detail while sculpting, we can see through and then sculpt over. But the greatest thing about this approach is the fact that you just have all the anatomy there. So let's start sculpting, starting with the face. I mean, it kind of looks wrong without the ears, so let's start with the ears. Quickly mask here, and make sure you have this Activate Sculptris Pro. I don't know what I'm saying. I meant I have to make sure that I have this. Uh, right. Anyway, so Snake Hook is very good with this. We can pull out some details. I'm going to have my reference on another screen. Unfortunately, I can't show you because it's on a completely different system. But yes, what it is. So we can pull it out this way and then progressively keep pulling until it's about this size. And then with a small brush size, slightly smaller, I'm going to smooth it out so it gets a lot of the resolution, the tessellation from Sculptris Pro. Okay, so with the Move Elastic, I'm going to now adjust a few things. So, gotta make it so it's like back there. So from this angle, it would be this edge I'll have to bring back around, and this edge over there, shape it somewhat like that. Not sure why it's all, oh, because I need more resolution here. I can remove the mask for now. So since we are tessellating this way, I'm going to turn off Dynamesh here because that will again unify the uh, pixels, which we don't need. So just getting some major forms going on. There's no need to dive into details just yet. So take clay buildup at alpha 6 and intensity of about 7 or 8. And I'm going to sculpt. So when you look at it from this angle, it needs to be like a curve and also needs to be flat like that and like that. So move elastic is really good at for turning the edges. So you want the ear to face a certain way. You can start one way and then grab one of these edges, and then if you just pull back and forth and do the seat, it has that twist thing that it does, which is really, really cool. Yeah, I tend to use this a lot, Move Elastic. I haven't seen many artists use it, but for some reason I like it. And now I'm going to make it a little rounded. From if I looked at it from this angle and pull that one up. And that's why I like to have the muscles and bones underneath. So if I'm moving something too far in or out, it'll give a nice feedback. Okay, so that's a basic ear. We're gonna do a lot more to the ear eventually, but the next thing that we need to put before it turns us off even more is the nose. Just mask off this area and fill some geometry. So the nose is quite rounded in shape. And it really comes forward. So if I take, you know, move topological, something like that to begin with is not bad. You can take trim dynamic to establish a little plane there. And also damp standard to dig a little, dig the nostrils. So nothing too fancy, just observing the reference and trying to capture as much as possible. But at some point, we'll stop and move to other parts and then come back to these later. Because the goal really in the first couple sessions is to get the primary forms working well. So, and you keep looking at that silhouette and see if it's really making sense or something isn't right. So the chin could use a bit of geometry here. So yeah, something like that, because it's very flat. Again, all of these, it helps when you look at that silhouette. As soon as I put that thing there, there's so much change in that shape right there. And that's what you want. That's why ZBrush gives us that option. And now we know there's a muscle that goes right down here to the muzzle. So when there is that shape and you want to add some mass to it, I like to just go across that cross section, like a cross section. And then the muscle goes this way. So I'm going to do that. So it's always like you're wrapping those muscles with the skin and the fat. And there's this little crease that happens. So we could give this even more from this angle. And then this is where the eye is. So I'm going to take this on the transparent and take a damn standard to then delineate that muscle on top because it's not as clear, right? So this is kind of where the eye is, right? So one thing we should do is have something as a placeholder for the eye. So that would be a sphere. So let's append one. Sphere 3D. Bring the move. So let's resize. If somebody comes online, just give me a shout out and let me know that you can hear me. I think that's about the size it'll do. I mean, if it's not 100% accurate, that's fine. Um, we will do a whole session on the eye maybe, because it's so important. So I'm going with that placement. And back here, let's do transparent and quickly with dynamic, sorry, clay build up. Just draw some lid. The lid comes down a bit there, and from this angle, it's slightly looks away, right? It's not like absolutely straight. Let's remove transparent. So with the move brush, I'm going to just make sure like it has that dip, goes in and comes out. Just basic forms at this point, nothing is final. We're just finding, we're searching for the correct place for each of these things. But thankfully, because of the work that we did so far, we already know most of it, and so it's just a case of freely sculpting. I'm going to also lasso of this part and make this a different polygroup so it's easy to, and maybe also for the ears. So when we keep coming back to these, we can isolate parts of the model. Let's say that's ears. So that could be the nose area. And because we're in Sculptress Pro mode, it's just a case of freely sculpting. Don't have to worry about dynameshing or lack of resolution, because we can add tessellation on the fly wherever and whenever we want it. So one thing I can see is that this muscle has, it kind of joins somewhere here, right? So there's this, and then these two have a separation going on there. So it's best to just delineate that lightly with dam standard. And we also know, in fact, let's try something cool. So if we just say mask this area and we want some of the underlying detail back, we may go to subtool, and here there's project, and the default is 0.02 the distance, so we don't need color, it's just the geometry. So if I say project all, now it projects and you get all that data from back, right? And you can also adjust this little project shell so it moves it up a bit. So maybe 0.02, let's try that. Not a lot, but yeah, I think you get the idea. So that, now if you just smooth out, so if I solo it, you can see it just brings up all of that detail, and we can then smooth it and then sort of reduce the intensity with this way with the clay buildup brush. So yeah, projection is a really lovely tool, because I just want to get this, to be fair, maybe not all of that, but it's okay. And then when you go over those muscle details, you will get that extra, otherwise you just have to guess and sculpt by hand. Yeah, then you can put more mass on top of this to smooth that area out. So that muscle here, I'm going to make it into one, and now I know where that spine is, so I can add more. It's not going to be very pronounced anyway, this one, but I just wanted to have it first, and then I can tame it down with these strokes like this. So when I look at it from this angle, there's this curve that is too curvy. I think it needs to be flattened a little bit. So just gonna go with this overall. Smooth out, let's see what it is looking like. So we need to close down this crease here, so just with the clay builder brush. Just gonna draw a little lip there. Smaller brush maybe. Checking from all angles. Here we can reduce this transition because there's going to be a lot of skin and fat that goes into that neck there. So just give it an overall forms, larger forms in this session and maybe the next. And then we can take area by area and refine the details. So this one is a big muscle that goes like this. So just going across the contours. So this is the scapula, which breaks into all of these different muscle groups, right? So all of these different muscles attaching to the scapula. So from this angle, we got this little bumpy thing going on the neck, whereas once we have the skin, it's all gonna be nice and smooth. So we're gonna have to address that at some point. Just smooth this out with a slightly larger brush. That will get us there quickly. And we can build up further. So from here, like that. See if it flattens out. Okay. From this angle, this needs to be a little bit Just gonna round these off a bit by just drawing these strokes across the different muscles. There's one here, and then one that goes like that, and then this big tricep that attaches to the elbow. So we want to make it clear that this is the elbow. This is actually quite big as well, so it needs to pack that muscle, and the size goes a little bit up once like this part gets a bit bigger, whereas this, it's probably too far out, if you ask me. We just have to flatten it out. Yeah, and we know we're reaching to that point now. So smooth out and just get that. It's a very lean area, so where the muscle is pretty much that's where the skin is. There's not a lot of fat in that area. So you want to be very, very close to the underlying muscle in that bit there. So yeah, just closing down the gaps so the creases are not too prominent. We want them to be there, but not too much. Yeah, there'll be opportunities to come back on this. So let's keep moving. So from this angle, I can see those major muscle groups, which is good. The elbow is where it should be, but we need to define this inner part of the leg, because there's a muscle there as well. But it needs to be so that there is some gap. I'll close the holes there later. So that's the chest. Let's see. Let's try and close this first. So this muscle, when we moved it, I think it's coming out more than it should have. It should have probably gone up a bit with that angle. So I'll adjust the muscle later, but for now, let's push this guy in so it merges with the chest cavity. the sternum is quite a bit in, so we can push it in a bit. Yeah, just making sure it's in a straight line when you look in this angle, like that. Pull it back as far back as possible, just so it still maintains the separation. So very quickly we can dynamize this, maybe slightly higher res. Yeah, that's not too high, so that's good. So one more bit of inflate, and that seems to have done a good job. So we're not too worried about topology and stuff at this point. Just enough, just have enough to be able to sculpt. Yeah, that's better. Okay, so from this view, I'm going to just make sure I'm going across these muscles. Just define them back because we lost quite a bit of detail in fixing that hole. So we want to be obviously closing these lines, these creases. So sculpt over with that skin and fat. And do some trim dynamic here. Sorry. There we go. And for this plank, go with a low brush and give it a bit of resolution so it doesn't lose its form at any given point. And then with a slightly bigger brush, we can smooth out that area we just sculpted. So these ribs, this is the reason why we sculpted those rib details on the muscles, because we wanted to see them, but we can do even better. Just draw some of these lines, and with the clay build-up, go across, especially here where there's this uh, change. There's the two parts of the bones attached, right? And then go across. So with a slightly bigger brush, I'm going to smooth it out. Where I think it's a bit too much. Right, and generally the latissimus part needs, we can delineate this better. Right. So with the clay buildup, I'm gonna go just on top of it this way. So there's the little bit of lip to separate the muscles. And I can also use the transparent and turn the ghosting off. Oh, no, solo off, I mean. And you should see, and this separation here again doesn't have to be that pronounced. So I'm going to sculpt across it like that. And a lot of these brush details that we see right now, they'll all fade away when we reproject um, this on retopologize model. So which is why I tend to just keep going freely and not worry too much about it and not try and make it really polished right at the beginning. So here I can see my muscles underneath, and which means I can use that to sort of accentuate some of these areas by going across that way. And I know that this is a really big transition, so there's that big pelvic bone. So the neck muscles, we need to build it back. Don't worry too much about that. I think I should have adjusted those muscles when I changed some of the other parts. So this is actually correct what we have. Right. So let's see how this is looking. So the form is coming nicely. And we can also, what we can also do is do this line here. So it goes all the way like that. And then go across this way. So it just blends with the top portion. So it looks like a separated muscle from the bottom part, the abdomen. I might lose some of the ribs in the process, but we can bring it back because we have uh, the skeleton. I can just bring back the skeleton tool here, put that one underneath. There we go. Now that abdomen also now looks more right. Let's give the flank a bit of detail. The flank. So in this pose, it has to be stretched, but we shouldn't have to see any of these like that. So it should be a nice curve. Just go across this muscle. Let's bring back transparency so you can see what's going on underneath. I'm going to delineate these muscles a bit. So there's that, and then okay, and there's one that goes there. So that just brings back some of those lines to help us with the sculpting. Smooth it out. Mm, so we do normally see a little bit of a change like that here. And because this muscle comes like that, it's best to draw some strokes this way and smooth out the quads are going to overlap quite a bit, so that muscle is going to push the skin and the fat, so whatever's next to it is going to be a bit diluted in this way. We might be going too far with the resolution. That's one problem with doing it this way with, sorry, I keep forgetting, Sculptris Pro, is that we keep adding a lot of resolution. But at some point, we may decide to stop that. I mean, for this, to be fair, let's see what we can get with Dynamesh. That's pretty neat. So we can continue in Dynamesh for this part, and only when we get to the face again and some details, we can switch back the Sculptris Pro. So let me just click save, and oops, oh, let me get that phone. Excuse me. I'm going to pause the stream. Yes, baby. हाँ तो इसलिए उठा नहीं रहा फिर भी चिल्ला दी तो half an hour. Okay. Right. Sorry. I just realized I had the stream as unlisted, which is why I wasn't getting any views. So apologies for that. Right, sorry, I have been streaming for a while, but I haven't made the stream public, so I guess a lot of you have not received any notifications. But feel free to seek back and watch the stream later. So we have started sculpting the skin for those of you who might join now. But yeah, feel free to watch the replay. So we're using all the underlying muscle knowledge that we have gained from creating the anatomy model, and just gonna keep sculpting the forms. So yeah, just keep going across that musculature that we borrowed from the unified skin. And this is going to be a little bit trickier. Let me just isolate this part myself solo and just fill that in like that. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Bring everything back. So yeah, it's just about fixing those things and making sure that the major forms are looking good for this stream, and then we may go into further details in a future stream. So from this angle, I can see that those muscles are in there, the rib cage silhouette is there, and just looking at that silhouette on the top left, that's looking pretty accurate. So we are in a good position. Now the same thing around this area, we lost a lot of details, so might as well inflate this, or I think we should add a sphere or something to close those holes. If we inflate these sides, I think we can bring it all together. There, smooth it out a little bit. And being dynameshed. So let's do the same here. Dynamesh, and there we go. And we'll fill this is a male line, so there will be some things around the crotch which we'll address in a future stream. Right, okay. How's that doing? Pretty okay. I mean, the eyes are too small, I think, but we'll come to the head again. So this was fun. I mean, I've had to troubleshoot quite a bit the muscles and everything before starting the skin, and when I did, I left it on unlisted, unfortunately. So I was live for the past hour and a half or so, but you only might be notified now. But that's fine. You can watch the recording. Do let me know what you think in the comments when you get around to it. Because this is really the fun part. We just started the real sculpting, the fun sculpting. So far, it was been quite educational for me, and I'm sure for you, those who are watching. But sculpting the skin, the actual forms, that's the fun bit. So there's a lot of work that's required around the nose. So today I'm just going to try and do one more level of forms to it, and then we'll focus more on it in the next stream. The eyes obviously has a lot happening. And this thing comes quite a bit down. Oh, and also it looks really weird there. Uh, it's best to turn on perspective when we're sculpting these details, because when we look at our reference, they're usually in quite a bit of perspective. Yeah, we'll go into Sculptris Pro later for this part. So for now, just going to move this the way I think it should be. There, let's smooth it out a bit more. Generally speaking, where we had this little spine in the skull, that's where there's a lot of skin and fat that goes this way, right? So when it's all sculpted, we actually see that line going like down, not up. So if I take this trim dynamic and flatten this, you see that's where the muscle is. And if we just draw these muscles down, don't want to lose too much because there's a change of plane that happens around the eyes and around here. So transparent, let's say this is where it is. So damn standard, just draw that line there and one over here, and then you can hide it. I do think that that should have been a bit lower, but anyway, I'm going to fix it as we go. So a lot of this happens because it curves down this way, so there's no sharp turning from the ear. So you can see how the head silhouette is starting to change as I put more of these in the middle. That's it. That's more like it. So if I looked at my silhouette now, so there's the change in the head form. The nose looks a bit wide, so let's bring it down a touch. Not too much. And then clay build up again, and we'll go right across to make it more round like that. So I can take the damn standard to draw a little line in the middle. Just to say that that's the center. And then smooth it out a little bit. And then take trim dynamic to get even rounder form from there. The intensity is too high. So the zygomatic arch, we can go across it like that to get a much more rounded form on it. Obviously, when we get to the secondary details, there's going to be a lot of folds and wrinkles around this area. That will change how it's going to look, but we can just, the harsh transition of planes we may close with. So that's a harsh one there. So go across to, so tame it down a bit. So we want the form to be there. We want the plane change to be there. So always have it like more than you need, and then you sort of soften it down. Same with this one, the cheek, that's There's going to be a lot of fat and saggy skin that will sort of merge into those little creases and make them less prominent. So just put those muscles in, and also just under the ear there's going to be this little fold happening. So that motion there will help. And those clay strips, as I said earlier, don't worry about them, because when we project the details onto a retopo mesh, we lose a lot of those anyway, and we won't make an effort to bring them back because we don't want them. But at this stage, I just want to look like a clay sculpt while I'm searching for those forms, most of which we already have because it's just unified skin from the anatomy model. Just about making it a good looking lion from here on. So from this angle, the ear is it needs to look like a inverted U, and I think it can go a little bit wider, this part there. So pull it up here. So that's looking good. And from the front, I think we could, if we can get the side right, the front should sort itself out. So, and the main thing I'm looking for here is this arch. Maybe take Moom Elastic and adjust it so it goes a little bit in the front and then comes back. As that shape. Is that better? I think it is. More cat-like. We'll turn on, where's that? Is it dynamic perspective? Oh, universal perspective. Is that already on? Yeah, I think, yeah, it's not on. Okay, so I think for today we made good progress, so I might just end the stream shortly. And next week we're going to come and do more of the primary forms. A lot of these muscle separations, we don't see all of those, so some of these like this I'm going to soften out. So more of the same, and then we'll address those fingers and paws in general. But yeah, overall, I think we made good progress today. Had to do a lot of back and forth on the muscles, so some troubleshooting I had to do offline, which I explained a little bit earlier in the stream for those of you who are wondering. So yeah, things like uh, adjusting the head size, so it's much smaller now compared to before. There's also the elbows further out, also the knees. slightly wider stance, and we got a basic skin going on. So pretty happy with that so far. If we better check once with the silhouette, I mean with the reference. As you can see, that's much better because before this head was pretty big for that, but now the proportions are perfect. Just notice there that this little arch here, we might as well soften that down. And yeah, just keep working on this. So I'll probably catch you guys next week on Wednesday, and we'll do a slightly longer stream then. So I'll start in the morning and we'll do a 3 hour stream. So for now, I say let's save this guy and I will end the stream. And I really thank you guys for following so far. And yeah, I'll see you next week. And if you're someone who wants to learn ZBrush sculpting and generally CG stuff, just stay tuned, subscribe, and follow me because there's plenty that you can learn from just following along these streams. So good luck and see you next week.